Hi, I'm Ems, aka On Deck and Wings, and I'm excited for the new Horus Heresy releases, especially the Saturnine Terminators. However, because I'm impatient, I came across a 3D printed file with a similar design, so I thought I'd print one out and paint it up, just in anticipation. Now, I do collect Lamentas, and I know that Lamentas went around in the Horus Heresy, however, I just wanted to paint this one up in the Lamentas style. So here is the model I 3D printed and assembled. I primed it in white, and then I went over the top of it with Colour Forge's Sunset Yellow. This is a similar colour to Avalon Sunset by Citadel. After this, I layered on my mixture. This is a pre-done mixture that I have of Imperial Fist Yellow, the contrast paint, and Uriel Yellow from Citadel. If you're consistently painting the same army or colours, it's a good idea to get the mixtures that you want, and you can thin them down. So you've got it ready to go then, so you have the perfect mixture every time, and it's great as well because you can just put it straight into an airbrush if you want to. However, I'm going to be using this and applying it with the brush in this video. So I applied this in about 2 to 3 layers, waiting for each layer to dry in between. This is so we just get some thin, consistent layers in between, and you get a really bright and vibrant yellow coming out of it. I know some people start with browns or magentas before they paint the yellow, but I like to use white and then try and get a pure yellow colour as I can for my base layers. After this, I wanted to add some shadows, so some soft shading, and I have the colour Scrag Brown from Citadel. This is thinned down with some thinning medium. It can be a good idea to transfer and thin your paints down, especially ones you work with a lot. And it just makes it quicker for me to create more of like a shading and a wash consistency. So I'm just focusing on the recesses here and the areas I would think would be darker. And I'm going to wait for each layer to dry and then go back over it again. I like using this colour rather than just orange because it has more depth to it. After this, I grabbed Doomble Brown from Citadel. I've already got this pre-thinned out in this bottle, and this is going to go in the darkest recesses. I'm using more of a precision brush with this, so I can be a bit more neat and precise with where it's going. And it does help this is already pre-watered down to a consistency which I'm happy with. This is shading more in like an heavy metal style, and pretty much the recipe I follow is like the heavy metal painting scheme you would do for Imperial Fist with a little bit of tweaking. Just all about practice with precision. So you want a good brush, you want a nice consistency of paint, and it's always worth as well checking the consistency of the paint before you put it onto the model, so you can wipe it on the back of your hand, or if you're wearing a glove or a piece of paper, just check that consistency. You don't want too much paint on your brush, otherwise it'll well up and it might go on places where you don't want it to go. If you ever do make mistakes, just quickly wipe it away with your finger, or grab a separate brush with some clean water on and wipe it away. Now I'm adding some edge highlights. So I'm mixing Ice Yellow from AK Interactive with Citadel's Phalanx Yellow. When you're painting edge highlights and small details, you don't want your paint to be too thin, because then you won't have as much control. If your paint is more watery, you're less likely to hit the spot that you want to, and we're just focusing on really tight edges here. So you want that paint to be a little bit thicker, but you still just want like a bit of water on it, so you still have some flow and control. You can buy this stuff from Liquid-X and other brands called Flow Aid Additive. This makes the paint run off your brush easier, so it's easier when you're painting edge highlights in small areas. If you just mix a little bit in with your paint, it'll flow better and come off your brush. I actually really enjoy painting yellow, which is a sadistic thing to say, but yeah, I do enjoy it. Speaking of sadistic, or more likely masochistic, let's paint some checker patterns on this guy. So I've got an off-white from AK Interactive. I filled in a few different areas in this white colour as the basis for the checker patterns. I went with the left shoulder and the knee pad. A technique I have to make it easier when doing freehand, especially checkers, is to draw out a grid pattern first. I normally do this in a very light pencil so it doesn't leave any marks. I usually do this in like a 3x3 type of grid. Once I'm happy with the grids, I grab some black paint and I start to fill in the cubes. I'm using a Artist Opus 00M brush here. It has a really nice tip on it. My advice once again is when you're doing small areas, don't add too much water to your paint, otherwise it'll just go everywhere. Make sure as well that you test how much paint and flow you've got beforehand. You can do it on the back of your hand or glove, so you've got an idea of the consistency. It's just all about practice and taking your time, and if you do struggle, this stuff does help a lot as well. The checkered patterns are finished now. I think they look great and they're neat and tidy, but I just wanted to add one last feature, which is the Lamenter's Bleeding Heart. I'm just painting a circle freehand here, but you could always draw it out with a pencil if you don't feel confident enough. I painted some black around the rim as well, and then I've just grabbed some burnt red from AK Interactive. I really like that colour, and I'm just making a heart symbol, freehanding it again. I also used some of that Pro-Acrylic burnt red to fill in the quilla on the chest, and then I mixed in some hot pink from 2 thin coats with that, and I added some highlights. I prefer this colour to using orange, since we've already got quite a lot of orangey browns going on the miniature anyway. It just adds a little bit of variation with that pink and dark red. So that's the main parts of the armour done. Now I'm going to do the trim and the guns. I'm using AK Interactive Rubber Black. This is more of an off-black grey colour, and I'm just going to fill in the areas. I have to be super neat here because we're working with yellow, so it's going to be a pain in the backside to get off. It just takes time and practice to be neat. However, if you do struggle and you're painting with yellow, you might want to put some masking tape over certain areas so you don't accidentally contaminate them with the black or whatever other paints you're using. I'm working with Raphael 8404 brushes here. They're my favourite large-bodied brushes for filling in areas. They're really great for when you're blending things or on capes and a lot of like flat areas where you want to get smooth coats or transitions. I have Darkstar Pewter here, my favourite brand of metallic paints by far. They're superb, get some if you can. I left this paint dry and I'm sort of dry brushing it over the top, so I'm just letting it catch all the raised areas so I still have some of that black paint showing underneath in the recesses. This pewter is a really nice colour as well because it has like a blue tinge to it, which contrasts nicely with the yellow armour. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you've probably noticed that the quality of my videos has improved. I'm playing around with the camera settings and how far away the camera is from the miniature and the lighting, and I do think it's improved a lot. I wanted to add some highlights to the black areas, so I've got Vallejo's Field Grey. This is similar to Thunderhawk Blue from Citadel, so it's like a off-blue kind of grey colour. And where all those kind of rubber piping type areas are, I'm just adding a few highlights to them. Since this colour has a hint of blue with it, it will again contrast nicely with the yellow of the armour. Then I grabbed some light blue paint and I filled in the lenses of the model. And that's the model itself painted, and now moving on to the base for the last part. I have AK Interactive's dark grey here. I do like a lot of off blacks and different shades of grey. I'm going to be dry brushing this over the base, and I'm going to be super neat as to where I put this so I don't get the yellow of the armour. Again, if you struggle with neatness, it's always a good idea to grab some masking tape just to cover your models up so you don't actually cross-contaminate paint. So skipping ahead here, I grabbed some pale blue from AK Interactive and mixed a bit of that in with that previous colour. And then I'm just going to be dry brushing this over the top of the edges with a smaller brush. And once again, this will have a blue tinge to it, a blue grey tinge, so it'll contrast nicely with the yellow of the armour. And the miniature is finished now, so this is the final result. I think it looks awesome. I'm really improving on my skill set with freehand and painting yellow. Please do like, comment, subscribe and all that. And I do have a Patreon if you'd like to support me. The link will be in the description below. I do have a load of links to my social medias there as well. As always, thank you for watching. Remember to enjoy your hobbies for yourself. And at the end of the day, they're just what they'll least. I'll catch you in the next one.